here is the truth with perfectionism, right? With perfectionism, there's no finish line. There's never going to be a place where you're like, it's good enough. The bar is always moving, right? Every time there's always going to be a little nuance within some sort of action, within some sort of idea or behavior or something that you do that you didn't think of ahead of time that you're going to hyper focus on, and that it's going to make it not good enough. That's just what perfectionism does. It's insidious that way. And then it triggers that feeling of insecurity, that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of like, oh, I want to escape this feeling, you just pulls you out of your center. And the next thing you know, food is where you turn to for that comfort. Food is where you turn to make the feeling of not being good enough go away, right? To stuff that down. And it just becomes a really, really painful cycle. And so, how do we start breaking free from this? Okay, let's talk about this, right? It's good to understand the why, but how do we start breaking free from this? So, first, it's about deconstructing the narrative that we've been telling ourselves, the one that says, I have to be perfect to be worthy. I have to be perfect to be lovable. I have to make everyone else happy before I can take care of myself or prioritize myself. Otherwise, I'll be exiled or, told I'm selfish or, essentially we're like as humans, one of our biggest fears is not belonging somewhere, is being lonely, is being alone. And I think that that's such a really, really important thing to recognize is that we're so primitively ingrained not to be alone that we're willing to abandon ourselves for it, there's even when both things could live, if you have the skills, right? Like you can put up a boundary, take care of yourself, prioritize yourself, and also be in community. You can also belong. You can also have connection. But sometimes it is more of a skill to learn, but it is 100% possible. So the first thing we have to do is believe that we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to people please all the time. We need to start shifting from this all or nothing thinking into something that I like to call good enough thinking, right? Like, I'm good enough. It sounds really simple, but it's really transformative. And what good enough essentially really means is that perfection isn't the goal. It's about progress, it's about balance, it's about showing up for yourself in small, measurable ways that you can walk away being like, yeah, I did a good job. And other circumstances might have happened around that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I did a good job and I can't control every circumstance. Okay. So, for example, instead of setting an expectation that you'll do everything perfectly at work, instead of setting the expectation that you're going to be like the perfect person at home or you're going to be perfect with food, start by setting more neutral balance goals. Ask yourself, what can I do today? What can I do today that's nourishing, that's not too heavy of a lift, that gives me a sense of accomplishment without feeling like I've pulled myself out of my center, I've burnt myself out, I've ignored myself or abandoned myself? So this could mean saying no to something that maybe if you asked yourself deep down if you wanted to do it, or like, it was really it was a no, but you kind of brushed it aside and was like, I can do it. But instead you don't. Instead you say no. What if you made a mistake or put yourself out there and didn't get the reaction that you wanted, and you didn't spiral into self-criticism, and instead you made the effort be the success? right? What if you had like this massive list, or like this massive project that you wanted to get done, or this big idea, and instead of just not getting started at all because you can't imagine it all getting done, you just focus on one little thing. And again, the action is the success. And when it comes to food, this mindset shift helps so much with then how you relate to food and eating. Because instead of then using food as a reward or punishment, you end up seeing food for what it is, which is a neutral vehicle. Food is a neutral vehicle for nourishment